customers are wanting value for money. It's not just a bottom dollar price now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Technology Boardroom podcast. Today, I'm joined by two fantastic gentlemen from the voice side of our business. So the voice team are going to talk voice. Yeah, that I'm not sure that quite works as a tagline, but there we go. And I shall let Mike and Oli introduce themselves.
Hi, thanks for having us along, Pete. So Mike Harvey, I'm the product director for the Unified Communications portfolio. Been in the business for just over 3 years now. So I'm kind of responsible for the product capabilities that we're taking to market and kind of how we do so. So very much a servant to the sales team. It's a good segue to Oli.
Thanks. Oli Compton, SVP of Sales. I was one of the founding members of Sitcom. So well plus 20 years of this market space and Sitcom in particular. Very much looking forward to that.
Cool. Thank you both. And really what I want to do is obviously I'm aware of what you do and how you do it, but I think in the business, you're probably one of our best kept secrets that I think is we need to talk more about voice. And that's really where I wanted to start and say, how can you help businesses? You know, what technologies are we talking about? You know, from a layman's perspective, what can we actually do? You know, with using all of the Sitcom capabilities, obviously now part of Advania, I will say that, but what can we do with all the technologies and how can we help clients?
The biggest thing for me from a product perspective is that's really not a simple answer, because ultimately we can almost do anything, which is a bit of a, you know, an easy brush off kind of comment. But the key tenet to our proposition is our Halo platform. And the way in which the business has grown up over the years is by simplifying complexity in voice estates. So a lot of the work we do is helping customers get from that legacy world. Doesn't really matter what, you know, platform they're using today. I'm trying really hard not to use acronyms, so call me out when I do. But taking them from that old world to whatever the new world is going to be. We do a huge amount of work today around Microsoft Teams phone migrations. And Microsoft does lots of things really, really well, but it doesn't do everything. So you're always going to get these scenarios where you've got things in that old estate that maybe don't translate perfectly into the new world. So a big part of what we do and where we've grown up over the years is doing that translation, simplifying that complexity, and allowing businesses to, you know, consume in the UC tool of choice what they have done before. And there's, you know, loads of different roads we can go down to what that looks like. But at top level, think about it as an integration hub for voice and simplification of complexity. I don't know if you've got kind of a different perspective. That's very much my product view.
No, look, I think the market more generally is shifted. Voice has become a function, a feature, a capability that customers still require. There was a viewpoint a few years ago that voice would be gone by now and the world would have moved in a different direction and people would interact in a far different way. What we've seen is we tried to come up the layer or the stack layer to be slightly less end user application focused. And as Mike says, come up into integration. What's your challenge? What's your problem? What do you need to continue to use? Where do you want to go? What's your aspirations? What's your technology journey? And we'll give them the platform that enables them to continue to use or want to use other technologies and not be beholden on any of the big three at any point, because those feature and functions can change at a drop of a hat. So we're trying to create a world which is similar to what you're seeing in the marketplace, where people are calling it Voice 2.0, UCC 2.0, and all these other fancy terms. For us, it's what's the customer's requirements, what's the outcomes, what are they trying to achieve, and then we use Halo to fulfill those wish lists.
Cool. And if I was to summarize that into a single line, and something I talk to clients about, if I was to say that we can provide dial tone to any telephony system, would that be a reasonable summary?
As one component part, absolutely. Halo will provide integrations into more than just voice. And I think that's really what we're seeing. Voice is a big part of that, and dial tone and the ability to make and receive calls. But those integrations into other key business systems and allowing those to all talk to each other whilst providing, whether it be self-service and self-management and stuff like that, they're the other parts that you've got to tack on.
Okay. And, if we think of where we are today, there's a big impending issue potentially for lots of clients out there who've got, I remember back to my days when I did voice ISDN, and the coming end of ISDN. How do we see that impacting our clients?
It's something we've been solving for a long time. So when we talk about the simplification of complexity, that's something we see in the market today. Because if you think about the UC toolset that businesses are moving to, whether that be Teams or another, those platforms aren't built to support those legacy use cases. And where this is going to be a challenge for some businesses is where they've got technology that is utilizing the legacy telephony system to run, and it's built on that digital network. So some examples of that, manufacturing is a really, really good one. We often see PA systems that are being utilized, or entry exit barriers for out of hours support, where you can just press a button on the telephone and that works. It's those types of use cases where the ISDN retirement is going to be a real challenge. And that, as I say, that's something we've been solving for a long time. I'm not sure there's been enough messaging in the marketplace yet. We've got the switch off coming in January 27. Started to see kind of government messaging, towards those people that are at risk, that have got home alarm systems and things like that literally in the last few months. I'm not seeing a huge amount within kind of business, other than organisations like us or our competitors that are messaging to the market. So I'm not convinced that the market is as ready as it could be, but at the same time, there's lots of solutions out there to help solve for those challenges. So it is going to be, I think there's going to be a rush at the back end of next year. That's certainly what it feels like, as businesses kind of realise that the date isn't going to be pushed again, because it has been pushed already. It's going to be a bit of panic, I think. So it is the right time to start thinking about it now and understanding, is that solution that you've got that is reliant on that legacy technology needed? And if it is, how are you going to maintain that moving forward?
And I'm guessing that's something that we can help them with to get over that problem, in whatever system it is.
Yeah. And I think, if I look at the hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of deployments that we've done over the last 15 years, no two have been the same. They're all unique in some way or another. And that uniqueness comes down to what's needed in terms of the configuration and how we do that. The Halo platform as it exists has evolved over the years from these types of scenarios, where we're solving for these complexities. And it's been architected in a way whereas it's very repeatable, and we can execute on these types of engagements at scale. So absolutely, we're well placed to deliver against those. I think never assume that what you've got can't be solved for. The biggest value in our business is the capability of our engineering team and the experience that they've got from all of those deployments that we've done over the years.
Yeah. Anything you want to add in there, Oli, in terms of our capability?
No, I think Mike's rounded it off in most ways. I think for us, there isn't a challenge that we can't go at. And although a lot of this is, as Mike says, different every customer, there's a base set of configurations and tooling and platform that are there from an automation standpoint to make these things quick. You're not talking an elongated period to make these changes. You've just got the expertise to make sure it fits each customer requirement. And I think that's the important point for me. I am seeing a shift in the market again, where customers are wanting value for money. It's not just a bottom dollar price now. They're looking for providers to combine services, provide solutions rather than just a widget. They're looking for providers to come to them and solve requirements rather than them being the experts and saying, give me a price for this blue widget. They actually want us to come in and solve those challenges for them, be part partnership rather than just a company selling them at all. And that's a big shift for us. We try and fill that space.
Yeah. And if we were to say, I know we have an awful lot of clients out there, but do we have a sweet spot? Is there such a thing, or are we pretty much across any type of system the way we can help?
I mean, from a vertical perspective, yeah, we're across every vertical you can think of. There are verticals where we see more, but that's more to do with kind of themes of migration to cloud. Some verticals are ahead of others in that kind of digital transformation journey. And I think it's more to do with that than anything else, because everybody has a telephony requirement. Everybody has a requirement today, and everybody's going to have a requirement tomorrow. So from that perspective, we sit across all verticals. We're secure platforms in government. We support retail. You can pick any, and we're there. It comes down more to complexity than anything else. And I think what's really important, with the onset of this switch off of digital coming, is to have a look at what you've got and just have a conversation about it. Because one of the really big challenges that customers have when they start talking to us is not having a very clear understanding of what they have today. There may be an assumption that we can just move to Teams and it'll work just fine. But when our teams start getting into that migration kind of discovery process, that's when these things start coming out of the woodwork. So if there's any advice that we can give, is just have a think about it now. You don't have to do anything, but at least have an awareness of what you've got in your estate, so you can forge a plan for next year, year after.
Yeah, well, the sooner you get on that journey, the better, probably, to try and mitigate some of that complexity that we've just talked about. That phone line that will be there for their alarm system that they've forgotten about, or the phones in the lift that they need to consider, and all of these other pieces that actually you might not think about as being part of their voice solutions.
And there is a lot of it out there. All the data that we look at is still suggesting that around 50% of all voice seats, and these are global stats and they're coming from multiple different sources, but about 50% of all voice seats are still sitting on a legacy on-premises service. So there's a lot of need out. All of those services are going to have to move at some point. You can sweat those assets for a long time because some of those platforms are incredibly robust. At some point they need to go.
Yeah. And, thinking about market trends a little bit, you talked about their legacy systems. Obviously, as the wider Advania UK group, we are Microsoft first. That's pretty much our bread and butter. That's where we go. What are you seeing in terms of, the likes of WebEx and Zoom and things like that versus, Microsoft Teams?
We seem to be at a bit of an inflection point. Microsoft have been doing a phenomenal job of hoovering up new voice seats over the last few years, since COVID, really. Their massive advantage that they have is that they own the desktop, and the way in which the licensing model works. We've seen a lot of transitions into that space. I'm certainly seeing a big uptick in the number of seats that are going to both Zoom and Cisco WebEx. Like, we consider those as the big three. There's other solutions available in the marketplace, but if you look at the stats in terms of where new seats are being deployed and sold, it's across those three. And it's almost like Cisco and Zoom have started to wake up a bit more recently and become a bit more competitive. And I'm seeing that both in terms of customer requirements, because we are seeing mixed estates, but also if I look at our competitors in the marketplace, there is a definite trend towards organizations supporting all three. Whereas historically, they used to be quite pointed. You'd have a Cisco house that was very, very strong on Cisco and just maintained in that space. But the number of organizations that are supporting all three is definitely increasing. And we're seeing a marked drive in that direction.
From your point of view, Oli, obviously, you deal across UK, Europe, and the US quite a lot. Are you seeing the same sort of thing with, the WebEx and the Zooms taking up some of the slack?
Markets are very, very different. I would say the US are always generally ahead of us at the moment, excluding, I would say, Sweden and certain parts of the Nordics, where you look at their technology stack, it's done slightly differently, but the US predominantly are ahead of us from a adoption standpoint as it pertains to these sorts of services. Where I'm seeing big upticks is what Mike's saying around these mixed estates, where customers don't want to drive the user community in a certain direction adoption standpoint and lose that buy-in from them, and then adoption suffers. They really want to give options to their user community, and also from a whether it be a customer or supplier, they want the ability to communicate with everyone. If they box it off with one vendor approach, that tends to limit them. And for us, that plays brilliant. Right? We will say, take the platform, consume whatever service you want under the hood. There's one very, very large global e-commerce business that we supply that use case is exactly there. It started off as a Microsoft opportunity for a very, very large number of users, then morphed into, well, can you do a bit of Cisco? Absolutely, let's consume Cisco under that. What about Zoom? What about this? What about that? And then suddenly, because they had use cases already, we can sit here and they can just light that up and consume it. So we sit in a place where the market's sort of catching up to where we thought it might be a few years ago. And that's why we're quite uniquely positioned in terms of the technology stack to be able to supply that to any customers of any size and scale.
Yeah. And you talked there about scale, and I think that's probably a good topic to go on to next. If I was to say, what is our smallest, what is our largest type of client, give us some figures. Where's the average?
One user all the way up to multiple hundreds of thousands. So for us, there is, as Mike sort of mentioned earlier, there isn't a particular sweet spot. We had unique USPs within certain verticals, financial services, when you're looking at data, compliance, regulatory, both from a technology stack and a compliance team and legal, we are absolutely uniquely positioned to be able to fulfill any requirement or wish list that they want within that vertical. But in terms of the other market segments, there isn't anywhere where we can't play, because the technology stack can go down to the one user all the way up, whether it's self-service or multi-tenant. Customers can pick what they want. They just need to tell us what the outcomes they're looking to achieve, and the platform can be configured and they can go and have that. Really, really simple.
Yeah.
And we've developed the proposition into kind of two tranches that kind of talks to exactly that point Oli had. So once we know and understand the outcomes, if the customer's requirements are fairly straightforward and they've got expertise in-house, then we have a self-service route where we've got a huge amount of automation built into the configuration of the platform, and we can get the customer to market incredibly quickly. Whereas, on the other side, where that complexity is there, and perhaps they don't have the expertise in-house, they're not quite sure what they've got, then we'll bring in our teams around project management and configuration to support them. So that cycle takes a little bit longer just because of the professional services activities that go into it. But to Oli's point, knowing and understanding the outcomes is critical to that, and we can take them down the appropriate path.
And what's been brilliant over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, some projects where we've been able to lean into the core Advania group of services. So Mike Parker's team and having access to those experts, bringing those in and being able to expand that product catalog for Sitcom more specifically, and then the customers getting all of that benefit of that Microsoft expertise as an example. That's opened up a whole different revenue stream that we could go after. And it's been great in a couple of projects we've been able to do it, and we're definitely going to lean into that some more over the coming months.
Just for those listeners who aren't aware, that area is really looking after the full Microsoft ecosystem. So anything from a modern workplace perspective, in effect, all we're doing is we're plugging voice in alongside the normal desktop set of applications that you have from a Microsoft world. So all in one type of solution. So very simple for your end users, very simple to consume, but actually very functional. So yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing something very similar. The plugging together of all of these pieces actually works really well. In terms of customer trends, let's think slightly where we are now, and let's think maybe a couple of years hence. Let's say ISDN's gone. What are we seeing down the tracks? Where are things likely to go in a voice world?
One of the trends that we're seeing is I want for customers to maintain control more so than we have done over the last perhaps few years. So, over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been selling a lot of managed services. So we'll go in, we'll take over completely on the delivery side and on the day too. When I talk about those legacy platforms where 50% of it is still on an on-premises estate, that's being owned and managed by that organization. And there's definitely a trend evolving where those businesses have a cloud mandate and they don't want to have high capex purchases anymore. They don't want to pay those annual maintenance bills on that infrastructure. But they do want to maintain control and manage it themselves. So that's a trend we're seeing where we're delivering more and more capability. We call it platform as a service, in the simplest term, where we'll provide the infrastructure as part of the Halo platform to that customer in whatever region that they need it. But then we'll also give them the access to manage it on a day-to-day basis as well. At the moment, we're seeing that in, and I'll coin an Oli term, the hyper enterprise. So the really, really big businesses out there that do have those big teams and the expertise in house. But I definitely see that coming down over the next few years. So yeah, that's a key trend, and we've obviously pivoted our capabilities to support that. So we're still doing predominantly the pure play managed service. We're definitely seeing an uptick of this. I want to manage it myself scenario.
Any other features, anything else that we're seeing a lot of? Obviously, to just again for the audience, our platform is global. Pretty much most countries of the world. There are the odd one or two that we can't do, but it is a global platform. So are we seeing that consolidation really across, trying to bring in all of these disparate telephony systems together into one? Is that something that's happening?
So it's always an aspiration. One thing that's important to think about, though, when you're thinking of those multinational businesses, nobody in the marketplace has got the silver bullet for carrier services. So you're always, if you're a large organization with multi-geographies, you're always going to have a multi-vendor strategy. It might not even be a strategy, it's a path you have to go down. So it's actually one of the challenges that we see, because when these big businesses want to migrate to a new platform, all of the anniversaries of all of those disparate carrier relationships are not going to fall on the same date. And it's actually quite challenging. Something that we do quite differently is bring your own carrier. So what that allows businesses to do is bring that existing relationship to the Halo platform. So we can provide those services ourselves, and we do a lot of the time, and we port those numbers to us, and we become the carrier of note. But bring your own carrier is huge. I don't see that changing, because it massively reduces the risk of the migration as well. And supporting can be quite challenging.
The larger enterprises have different budget owners as it pertains to last mile SIP and PSTN services versus core managed services and infrastructure. And so we try and get ourselves out of that SIP side of the business, or the PSTN side of the business, with a larger enterprise, because it does often slow down the sale. Because what you'll find is they will annually or every 2 years, they'll have a specific team that will manage cost reductions against those services, versus infrastructure and managed services, which you handle completely differently. So for us, the ability to provide a global platform that will plug into those service providers they have in region, some of the examples would be regulatory challenges in certain countries require local PSTN providers as well. We can plug all those in. Global platform, local services from the PSTN, that's bread and butter for us. And what I'm also seeing in the marketplace from a S&B perspective in particular is they want the enterprise grade feature function at a lower cost point where they don't have to really handle any of the IT overhead from doing that. They want all the benefit at a fixed package cost that they can just consume and make use of and make their business look that little bit more special as it pertains to their competitors.
And I guess that's the same in the IT world generally, where obviously with the likes of the SaaS services and such like that people are providing, we're able to actually provide much more enterprise scale solutions, but on a per user per month cost. And I guess voice is following that very same track.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for us as well, what we're seeing more broadly across there is data being data visibility being a primary driver for a lot of businesses. How can we arm you with visibility of what your customer interactions are, what you're doing, how the system's performing? Pick a data point, they want to see it and they want to be able to understand it so that they can use it for either customer experience, more customer acquisition, better performance for internal users. That for us is a big growth area that we're trying to explore through R&D and product development on the Halo platform more specifically, to be able to arm customers and our service providers with those data points.
Yeah, I think we need to get a new link for Mike because he's just dropped off the platform. But there we go. That's not a voice issue. That's a network platform issue. But then we're all good. Anything else you want to cover, Ollie?
I think for me, I'd like to use this as a why Advania. Let's drive some business into Advania. Why they should be coming into us as a group, right? And I think and I don't want to be a double glazing salesman. We can do everything. We'll do you know what I mean? But that is ultimately the message, right?
Yeah, I will go there in a minute.
Yeah, and then maybe at the end, if we've got time, and we'll do it. Spend time on maybe customer acquisition from a partner perspective. Talk about wholesale, how we as a group are uniquely positioned to take wholesale providers in.
And he's back. So, yeah, in a voice world, there are lots of providers out there that provide voice services, that provide dial tone, that provide, Teams voice, etc. What do we do differently? Why would a client come to us? What's our special sauce, if that makes sense?
Do you want me to take that one? I've got a perspective. But for me, it's the flexibility. So when Ollie talks about outcomes, that's key for us. But it's the flexibility in the capability of the platform. I talked about the evolution of Halo and how we got to where we are today. That evolution was driven by lots of engagements. And bear in mind that we've been playing with Microsoft since day one. So just a very, very quick plotted history, just to give a little bit of background and some context. When Microsoft decided that they wanted to play in the voice space back in OCS days, Office Communication Server, they set up a group of industry experts to develop what was referred to as the reference architecture for hosted link. And we as Sitcom were part of that TAP, or Technology Adoption Program, I think is the right term, and actually built that first platform. So we've been working throughout all the various iterations of OCS, OCSR2, Link 2010, 13, Skype for Business, and now Teams. Yeah, it's been an evolution. But the way in which our platform has evolved is, working with organizations that have got that complexity. And it's got us to a point where we've got significant maturity in our capability that has got both the knowledge base in the team, but the repeatability in the platform to deliver against those requirements, really at pace and very, very effectively at a very effective price point as well, because we are doing it at scale. So I think the platform is a huge part of it. But I think the flexibility in our agnostic nature as well is important, because, yes, we do a lot and we have a lot of focus around Microsoft Teams, but how we then, integrate that platform into their legacy environments, into a third-party contact center, bring in recording capability, reporting capability, whatever that may be. As I said before, no two customer requirements are the same, and our ability to look at that holistically and kind of say, well, okay, well, our recommendation, because of what you need there, is this, and we have that in the kit bag. I think that's huge. But also in the expertise of our team, we've got a lot of tenured folk in our engineering team that have lived that evolution. And that's a huge part. A lot of the feedback we get from customers is around the capability of our team and the expertise and professionalism of our team. Just the confidence that provides. It's, oh yeah, we've seen that before. We know where we need to go next. And the flexibility around the carrier kind of conversation we've already had as well. When you bring all of that together, there's a huge comfort factor there for customers. I think, which is a strong differentiator for us.
Yeah, and I think to sort of a bow on it, when you're looking at different market segments, different things that are going to drive what makes us appealing, you're never going to be 100% great for everyone. What we try and be is very good in every component that they're looking for. For us, that simple automated SKU that allows a customer to be live on Teams in under 10 minutes is a big win for a lot of firms, right? They just want something simple, they want to go. And then you look at the other spectrum, when you're looking at these big hyper enterprises, it's that control of a platform, get rid of all that infrastructure cost and overhead, but still be able to run their platform. Again, being able to provide that in a commercial model that's based on sessions and utilization versus users, you're talking multiple X, hundreds of thousands a year in savings that they can put into other areas. It becomes a real tangible difference. That, when you combine the nature of our business being wholesale and our partners being able to go after certain segments that they're strong in, so certain customers that we work with will be really well positioned from a contractual standpoint in government. Again, we have the platforms to facilitate that. They have the contract vehicle. Again, that becomes a USP for being able to transact.
Yeah. And I guess that's possibly why the sitcom part, the voice part of the business is one of the best kept secrets, as I said at the beginning, because some of it actually you wouldn't know it's us behind the scenes.
100%. Yeah, we rightly or wrongly have lurked in the shadows and allow our partners and our customers more generally to be center stage. I think if you want a reference point on top of what Mike mentioned, on average, on a monthly basis, we represent 5% of the Microsoft voice globally from a live working perspective, because there's a lot of stats out there about we've got X contracted. We like to work on the basis of who's actually using these services. That's where the 5% figure is driven from. So we make a massive, massive splash out there. We just don't publicize it.
Yeah, you just don't know it's us.
Okay.
Which it's a bit of a shame, really. But so how many, you're talking numbers there. How many people, sessions rather, obviously, how many sessions do we think we're getting on a monthly basis through the platform?
I mean, we look at subscribers. So we've got around 1 million subscribers on the platform, across the various estates, across the regions as well, which is a pretty significant number.
It is, and certainly, just that piece of scale, that thought process in terms of 1 million subscribers, that is a big number, absolutely, and they're worldwide as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool, really. I think.
Yeah,
I mean, we're quite proud of it.
Yeah, that you combine that with the commercial models that we're bringing to market on Operator Connect and a couple of other products that allow for that utilization session model. That's going to disrupt the market. No one's really taken as yet. There's a couple that are intimating they're not gone into that space because it's hard to see a return commercially by going that route. But for us, we see it as a way to garner more business very, very quickly, because customers will suddenly say, well, actually, rather than saying 1,000 users, I'll take 100 sessions. So I'm gonna be able to do that. We've then got the technology stack to allow them to burst up if they need to, so they're not hard limited on. I think that if you look over the next sort of 6 or 12 months onwards, that's going to be a big area.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, as in with always in business, it's trying to do more with less. So that model, you know, will work really well rather than it being a per user per month cost specifically.
I think one of the other areas that is resonating as kind of a differentiator for us is we don't really care what the endpoint is. So again, one of the conversations that's coming up, one of the themes that's coming up is around, well, Microsoft today, something else tomorrow. And what we're able to offer customers is, well, once you're on the Halo platform, well, actually that makes that move and migrations in the future much easier, because it's very easy for us to move that traffic from Cisco to Microsoft or Zoom to Cisco, or whatever that scenario may be. So we allow organizations to not entirely future proof, but, you know, remove the upheaval if a change does happen, or even if they choose to go to a mixed estate. You know, we're seeing a huge amount of M&A in the marketplace at the moment, and our customers are constantly buying new businesses. Chances that they're on the same platform is not always high. So for us to be able to say, well, bring that user community onto our platform, but they can stay on the technology that they're on today, again, it allows for that cost consolidation, but without the disruption to the user community as well.
Yeah, which I think is super important, because it's, you know, what we need to do is be seamless to the users. In effect, that's probably the number one thing that we have to be. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts about the future? You know, where are we going? Are we going to get the name out there more, or are we, you know, are we more, you know, working with our partners to deliver the service? What's the future hold?
I think that the partner focus is key. You know, we're starting to talk a lot more around our capabilities, you know, from an Nirvana perspective, because it is a core tenet of our organization now. But yeah, certainly you're not going to start seeing a big splash from us and pushing the Sitcom brand in the marketplace as a direct to customer piece, because that's not the business strategy. We are expanding. You know, we're bringing on new partners all the time. We do a huge amount in North America today. I don't think that's going to change significantly in the near future. But keep evolving. You know, we've had 3-4 big product launches in the last 18 months. We're constantly evolving the capability to make sure that we stay relevant. You know, a lot of the things we've talked about today are new. They're things that we're seeing in the marketplace. So that's certainly going to continue.
Go on, I think crystal ball. Where are we going to be in 3-4 years' time?
I think for me, it's customer acquisition from the partner perspective. Grow that partner community more than we already are. With that comes more rigor, more process, more people. Be sure that we can point a euphemism delight our customers, and they should always come first. So for us,
that would be me. I didn't even notice.
I've got to remember what I said now.
Crystal ball.
Crystal ball. Thank you. Yeah. So, Ollie, you know, let's think 2, 3, 4 years time. You know, let's get the crystal ball out. What's the future looking like across the services that we provide?
No, absolutely. I think for us, it's more partner acquisition. Let's go and get more partners on board. With that, there's some process changes, there's some process work that we've got to do. We've got to expand the team to support those, because for us, that customer satisfaction, that customer delight is central. What we'll always do is bring partners on board when we know that we can facilitate them into revenue. This isn't a one-way relationship with anyone we take on. We very much want to enable them to be successful, not just sign contracts. So for us, it's metered growth against the ability to deliver against it. I think that's one part of it. I think for us as well is looking at new markets, which we're already doing. So looking at some of the service providers that are out there that are looking for more revenue opportunities. They're seeing a shrinking, whether in margin or even top line revenue. and us giving them a new set of services or the Halo platform more broadly to enable them to go after new markets and expand their business, or at least retain their customer base that maybe they're seeing attrition. We're seeing that as a big growth opportunity for us. There'll be a partner announcement, no pressure from Mike, fairly shortly with a new service provider, which we're really, really excited. That's going to open a new opportunity up for us. And for me personally, it's growing the Advania side of the business, making sure that we're capitalizing on what is done at group with our customer base and ensuring that they get voice from us. There is no reason that a high percentage of our existing customer base should not consume voice or UC services. So that's the bit that we've undercooked. And as a collective, we're going to drive into that over the next few months to ensure that we're doing that. We're already seeing it with a couple of big wins with existing customers over the last couple of weeks that I don't think are out there, but will be out there very shortly, that we're really excited about. But that's another area that's going to grow.
Yeah, and I see it a lot. Sitting in cross sell as I do at the moment, trying to bring on the Servium and the CCS Media organization into the one Advania group. Absolutely, it's something that I think we have got a huge client base that we can talk to about what is a great service, what is something that, as you said earlier, delights our clients. That's what we're all about. So yeah, really good. I think at that point we'll call it quits for today's podcast. I'd like to thank Oli and Mike for their insight into the world of voice. I think it's been really engaging in terms of where we're going and what we do. And thank you for bringing out the most secret part of our business to show how successful it is and how under the radar a lot of it goes. So thank you very much for that. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Technology Boardroom. Thanks very much.